1,000 days is a long time to do anything. So why have I spent so much of my time in an app? In this video, I'm going to break down some of my thoughts on the platform and whether it's worth investing your time in a sea of language learning options. But first, if you're new to this channel, my name's Evan, and I love learning languages. So first, I want to orient you a little bit to where I'm coming from so that I'm transparent in this discussion and you understand a little bit about my background. I speak 4 languages to varying degrees. I've studied Spanish, Esperanto, and I'm a beginner in French. In high school, I studied Spanish, but like a lot of people, it didn't really stick for me. And then a few years ago, I heard about a language called Esperanto. There's a bit of debate in the language learning community about whether it's a useful language, and if you haven't heard about it before, that's okay. I'm not going to argue that point today. But I spent the first 300 of my days in Duolingo working on the Esperanto tree. And then from there, I've moved on to Spanish, and more recently, I've worked a bit in the French tree as well. I know people take different approaches with Duolingo, and they might dabble in different areas, but that's not really my style. I focus pretty intensively in one specific language, and I just like to put all my effort into one thing, and that's kind of my traditional approach. So with that in mind, I've logged 1,000 days in Duolingo. Now I want to be fully clear. I have occasionally used what they call streak freezes, where you can pause your progression and take a day to do something else that's not Duolingo. So I consistently work in languages every day, but I have taken periodic days off of Duolingo. But in total, I've been in the app 1,000 days. Does that make sense? So what is Duolingo good for? For me, Duolingo is great for orienting you to the basics of a language and showing you in a simple way some of the fundamentals of how grammar works. They might not always explain the grammar, but it's there and it shows you in a logical way how to begin in a language. And for someone like me who started learning Spanish, it also provided the opportunity to jumpstart my learning when I decided to get back into that language. And while yes, it can be monotonous to hear simple phrases over and over, the idea of spaced repetition can be really useful. I also enjoy some of the other features that they have built into it. They have things like the Spanish podcast offered by Duolingo. And I think it's great that they factored that in as one of the options that you can do to diversify the way that you're consuming content. I also enjoy the fact that they have both an app and a website, so depending on how you're feeling that day, you can sit in front of the computer or you can sit somewhere else and use your phone. Now with that said, will Duolingo bring you to fluency? I don't think so. It's a piece of the puzzle, but it has to work in conjunction with some other ways to practice, particularly with speaking, because Duolingo can go really far as orienting you to some vocabulary and some practice on your own, but the speaking piece is kind of lacking there. It also has to be used really heavily in a focused kind of way, because if people spend a long time building streaks, there are some who have done streaks for years and years, but they can't hold a conversation. So I'm not sure what that really says about the app. Maybe they like the gamification. Maybe they like it as something to do to get a taste of different languages. And if that's what you want to do, fine, that's great. But if you're serious about trying to get a language to a level where you can speak with natives, it's going to require more than a few minutes a day through an app like that. So what do I view as the negatives of this app? Well, I don't need to know that your horse ate your hat. I just don't. So yes, there are, memorable lines in Duolingo, but I would rather be learning phrases that I can use and I can take quickly to speak with natives in a more practical way. That's just me. Also, I think that streaks and leaderboards are kind of a double-edged sword because yes, they'll draw people into the app, but at the same time, some people might be more motivated by rising up the ranks rather than practicing the language. So at a certain point, they may start speeding through the lessons just to get more points, just to do better on the score or the game aspect of it. If that's what you're into, that's great. But if you're a serious language learner, there might be better ways to spend your time. For me, it was really useful in the beginning, but as time has gone on, with languages, particularly like Spanish, I feel like I've started to outgrow the tool. And unfortunately, that's made it feel more like a chore than something that I want to do every day. So, will I continue to use Duolingo? I think so, but I'm less confident that I'll be consistent about it in trying to maintain the streak just to keep the streak. But I do think there's value in the app, and I think that if, especially you're a beginner, there's no harm in giving it a try, and hopefully it will help your process. So, what do you think? If you use Duolingo now or have in the past, how does your experience compare? I'd love to hear in the comments below. Gracias y hasta luego.